Last Friday, apparently I used ChatGPT, and the number one way research says people are using the AI for, which is shocking because it should not be the number one reason.
Is it to make those little figurines that they've been showing? Everybody's been sharing on social media, like turn me into a figurine. And
close. That's number two.
Okay,
but it's not number one. Which, by the way, I did try to make myself into a figurine, and it wouldn't. It literally said,
"I did too." Yeah, I'm embarrassed to admit it. I had to see what it looked like.
What accessories did you get with it?
They made me like a Easter comedian.
An Easter comedian?
I don't know why. That's just what randomly it did.
Put you in a little bunny costume and everything? Yeah. Mine wouldn't work for me.
Okay, off message.
Okay, anyway, so I'm just trying to avoid this because I don't want to talk about this. So apparently, according to research, the number one reason people are using ChatGPT is for therapy or companionship, which doesn't seem like a good use for it. But actually, I will say it was more helpful than I thought it was going to be when I turned to ChatGPT to use for therapy a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I've seen this. Not only therapy, but relationships that teens. A lot of teens now are using ChatGPT as friends. They're having so few life interactions with people that they are turning their ChatGPT into friendships.
Well, that was a movie. Wasn't that a movie with Joaquin Phoenix?
Her?
Yeah. Right.
They predicted the future 10, 15 years ago or whatever. So last Friday, right before vacation, it was just kind of an emotionally tough day. I said, come at me for Plead the Fifth, and y'all did. And I don't know what I was just sitting in that day, but I just kind of emotionally blacked out. And I kind of regressed into some old patterns that I had really, really overcome in my past, and they kind of reared their head that day. So I'm going to give a quick content warning for eating disorders. If that's something you can't really listen to, maybe tune into the podcast later, wherever you listen to your podcast, either Apple or Spotify or wherever. And I decided, because I stopped going to therapy because it was so expensive, I was like, why don't I just talk to ChatGPT about my issues? So on Friday, I regressed into some old habits, and for a backstory, in college, I had a really, really bad binge eating disorder. To this day, it is probably the hardest thing I have ever had to overcome. I was so proud of myself when one day I woke up and realized that I hadn't binged in a long time, because I for a while I was like, I just don't know if I'll ever eat like a normal person again.
Can you tell me what that looks like?
You eat a lot of food. You binge eat?
Like for an hour? Is it all day? What are the foods that you're binging on?
Sometimes it can be an all day thing. Sometimes it's like you just kind of just snap and you just eat way, way more, like thousands and thousands of calories of food. And then you think, well, it's 10 a.m. and I already screwed up, so let me just binge for the rest of the day. And it was really tough. And I gained a lot of weight from it unintentionally, and I couldn't get out of that eating pattern. And it took me a while just to eat like a normal person. And the way I overcame that disorder was basically just realizing, my body responds well when I just eat like a normal person. And if I just indulge normally and I eat normal portions, I feel better and I look better, and my life is just overall more fulfilling.
Just because I'm curious about this part, before you go on, when you saw a therapist about your binge eating, mentally, what is it trying to fill when you do that? Is it a control thing, or what is that?
So I never went to therapy for binge eating. It's something I pretty much dealt with on my own. And I think, based off of what I've learned from like listening to podcasts and reading books about it and just kind of like self-treating, it's sort of like a self-sabotage thing. Like if you are very particular about the way that you look and you feel like you've messed up, you think, tomorrow I really need to restrict so I can go back to looking the way I used to look. So I'm going to really enjoy today, and then tomorrow I'm just like not going to eat. And so you get into this binge restrict cycle that just kind of ends up feeding into itself. So the way I was able to get out of that was just by not restricting. Like, I'm just going to eat like a normal human. And then that triggers your body to stop wanting to binge, essentially. So anyway, it's been years since I've experienced any of that kind of behavior, and I've been really, really proud of it. But the last couple of years since moving to Atlanta, for whatever reason, whatever routine shift happened when I moved here, my body just stopped responding to the things that helped me overcome that binge eating disorder, which is just eating normally and exercising and working out. And that took me to some really dark places, because everything that I had taught myself was that if I just, eat healthy and move, I get to look and feel like a normal person. And when that stopped working, it fed this thought in my mind that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, you are just always going to be average. And I think that really was tough the last couple of years because I just felt like those were things I overcame and whatever. So those thoughts have been lingering for a while. And then for whatever reason on Friday, I was just such in like an emotional low that I found myself kind of falling back into that thought pattern of, oh, it would be really nice to go to the grocery store and just like eat my feelings for whatever reason. And I ended up stopping myself before I could like really spiral into some kind of like crazy binging pattern. And I was like, I don't have anybody to talk to about this. I don't want to talk. There's a lot of shame when it comes to binging. So I'm like, I don't want to like call my mom. I don't want to like, I'm not going to get on Instagram and talk about it. So I was like, what if I just went to ChatGPT and asked what I should do in this moment?
One more question before you go into the ChatGPT part. Did your mom know about your binge eating problem back in the day?
I don't know if she did. She knows now because I've like talked about it, but I think she knew I had issues because I was very, very like regimented about my food when I was in high school. And then obviously like when you stop those patterns, I think they notice, but it's not like, I don't think it was an open dialogue that we had.
Got it.
So then I was like, let me just see what ChatGPT has to say about this because I've been going to ChatGPT for a lot of good stuff recently and it's been kind of informative. And I just typed in the little chat box for ChatGPT. I said, it's been years since I've binged with a binge eating disorder and I think I'm about to regress into that habit again. What would you tell me if you were a therapist to get me to stop doing that? And it just wrote out this very like intentional paragraph about like steps I needed to take to not shame myself, to realize that like this one mistake that you make isn't going to now trigger you to fall back into patterns. Like one day doesn't define the last 1,200 days you've had. And it's so crazy how real it felt because I know it's a bot. Like I know it's a chat bot. Like I know there's no real person behind the screen telling me this. But for some reason that companionship took a lot of the shame out of it because I'm like, I kind of feel not alone in this for some reason, even though I know it's fake. And I'm like a sentient person with a degree from a good university. Like I should not be one of these people that's like having a parasocial relationship with a bot.
But even if a bot sees you, at least you're being seen. Like you felt seen. And I think that's what's most important is not who it is, but how you felt. And the fact that you recognize that you were going, you were about to enter a very dark place. I think that speaks volumes of how far you've come and you wanted to prevent that. So, you went to AI to give you advice. And so it's obvious that the advice struck a chord with you. Did you take it and did it work?
I did take it.
Yeah.
And it did work. I was like, you know what? I know what habits got me into that cycle. And old me, 20-year-old me would have thought, well, I did this. So tomorrow I really need to shame myself by skipping breakfast. And, then I'm going to have like one piece of chicken. And then maybe I'll have like a dinner if I'm really like disciplined about it. But I was like, no, I've had so many great healthy habits in my life for however long. I am not going to revert to a stupid one day fix all so that I can feel a little bit better. Like it's regressing into that cycle is not worth it.
I just want to compliment you. I think what you're talking about is so brave, which sounds very Hallmarky, but that's really difficult. And that's really difficult to check yourself when you're going into a spiral or a dark period like that and put the brakes on and be like, I gotta do something somehow. And I think AI gets a really bad rap. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it, obviously, but at the same time, I think there's use for it like this. Will it replace a therapist? No. But it has access to all therapy articles on the internet. And sometimes people don't want to talk to other people. They just want to deal with it alone. And that's very hard to do.
Or can't afford it.
Yeah. And especially it's something like so vulnerable like this and talking about, body image and eating disorders. And I think it's really great that there's an outlet you can go to of this, super intelligence. Is it perfect? Is it 100% accurate all the time? No, but it has this vast repository of information that is very helpful. So I think for someone who is dealing with things by themselves or needs a quick check-in, I think what you did was really smart. And I think it's a really great resource. And now I hope people out there know about it.
Yeah. And I want to make it very clear, do not replace your therapist with ChatGPT. Like, we're going into a recession. Like, keep your therapist employed. And obviously, like, this isn't therapy advice, but it was a great tool to not be able to fall back into what was one of the toughest periods of my life.
And where are you now?
A little bit better.
One step at a time.
The Bert Show.